First of all, I had an early mentor named Ted Engstrom, who I worked with at World Vision for 5 years or so. Much of it was as his assistant. And he told me one day, he said, Bob, if you have only one option, you don't have an option, you have a decision, but not an option. Do I want to do this or not? It's a decision, but it's not an option. He said, whenever possible, get an option. Is option A or B better? And he said, option A or B is a wiser thing to choose from than just one, which I've always sort of kept that in the back of my head. But often you're faced with a situation where you have 4 or 5 options, but you can't quite decide which one. So how do you make that decision? One of the things I would encourage you to do is make a list of what the options are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then give them a 1 to 10 rating. And this is where you harness your instincts as compared to your head. Instead of thinking through what are all the features of each option, you basically say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is, it's the right call. I know this is the right way to go, is a 10. And 1 is, for whatever reason, this isn't even close. I mean, this is not the right way to go, for whatever reason. And you can even say, for whatever reason, you haven't even logically spread it out yet. You just know instinctively, this is not a good idea. Just give each one a 1 to 10, and you're going to be able to eliminate 2 or 3 of them just quickly. And then basically go back and say, all right, I've got a 10, a 9, and an 8. Well, that's close enough. You might want to take a little bit closer look. But you may say, okay, if I had to rate them again, would I rate them the same way? Yep, 10, 9, 8, yep. I say, is it possible 8 is 10 or 10, it's like you play around with that for, not forever, for 2 minutes. You play around with it for 2 minutes. And if it stays 10, 9, 8, unless there's some logical reason, I'd go with 10. In other words, in a matter of seconds, your instincts will give you a rating. You know often that this is the right one, this isn't the right one. I mean, your instincts know that. It's just something you haven't been able to clarify logically. But when you can give a 1 to 10 rating, often as a matter of fact, it's like 10, 6, 3, 4 or something like that. And often there's one that just stands out. So make a list, give them 1 to 10, and just see what you see. Just see how different they are, how clearly your mind, your emotions, your intuitive brain sort of gives you sort of the rating on them. And then think through logically, why is this if you want to? But Cheryl and I have made many decisions where we'd say 1 to 10, how is it? And you say, it's obvious. So one of the best ways I know, if you're in a situation where you have to decide quickly, but you have to decide wisely, is to make a list of them, give them a 1 to 10, and then often a 10 comes up and nothing else is close, because your instincts know without having to spend the time, not being able to spend the time, because you have to decide right now which is the better course to go. By the way, this is probably especially helpful when you've got a fact or two you don't have. Because you have to make a decision before you have all the facts. Your intuition is a lot more valuable there than if you've got all the facts and still have to make an intuitive, a quick decision. Because your instincts will typically provide you they'll give you more wisdom on that missing fact than your logic will. And now, another thing I'd say is that don't do this just because I say so. I mean, if this makes sense to you, do it. If it doesn't make sense to you, don't do it. But my experience is your 1 to 10 instincts are pretty reliable. And I would certainly use them if I had 5 options, but I had to make a decision quickly.